All right, good evening, students. So today we will be studying how to find the square root of a number using prime factorization. Now, so we are only talking about numbers that are perfect square here. All right, so we're gonna be talking about different numbers next time, but for now we are gonna be discussing, or we're gonna be finding out the square root of perfect square numbers here. So basically 576 is a perfect square number. However, we need to know what is the square root of that 576. Now, and we're going to use the method, the prime factorization method. Okay, now, the first thing that we need to do is to divide 576 by the smallest prime numbers that we can think of. But since 576 is an even number, now the smallest prime number that we can use to divide 576 is 2, because 2 is also a prime number. Right, so let's divide 576 by 2. That would equal to 200, hang on, 88. And then since 288 is an even number, we can divide it again by 2, right? So that would equal to 144. And since 144 is an even number, again we can divide it by 2. Again, we can just keep dividing it by 2 and by 2 and by 2 until we can find another number to divide it. All right, so let's try it. So that becomes 72, then divided by 2, that becomes 36, and then 36 divided by 2, that becomes 18, and 18 divided by 2 becomes 9. Of course, 9 cannot be divided by 2, but there is a number that we can divide 9 by. There is a number that there is a prime number that we can divide 9, which is 3. All right, so 9 divided by 3 is equal to 3, and of course we can still divide 3 by 3. That will result us to 1. Now, these are the numbers that we can divide 576 with, correct? Now, all we have to do is, since it is called prime factorization method, we have to write the factors using what? Using a prime factorization. So we can just write how many times did we multiply 2 by itself to get 576? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would be 2 to the power of let's say 6, and then we have 3 times 3 here, so times 3 is squared, right? So basically 576 is equal to 2 to the power of 6 times 3 to the power of 2. So all we have to do is to divide, or to basically simplify 576 with all perfect squares. All right, we both know that 2 to the power of 6 is the same as 2 to the power of 2 times 2 to the power of 2 times 2 to the power of 2, correct? That is 2 to the power of 6. And then we have 3 to the power of 2. All right, remember, this is, all of them is a square root. All right, so we both know that 576 is the same as this, so we can also square this and this one. Now, from what we studied before, for the radical sign rule, so whatever's inside the radical sign can be separated if they are being multiplied to each other. So for example, we have 2 squared times 2 squared times 2 squared times 3 to the power of 2. That means we can separate them individually. So we have 2 squared times 2 square times 2 square times 3 square, right? Now, what is that 2 square? We both know that 2 square is 4, correct? Then times 4 times 4 times, what is this? That is a square root of 9. Okay, now we both know that square root of 4 is 2, correct? Times 2 times 2, and then times 3. Square root of 9 is 3. All right, now, so we all cancel the square root now, so we can just basically multiply them. So we have 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 3 is 24. So basically the square root of 576 is equal to 24. We were able to solve the square root of 576 using the prime factorization method. All right. How about 324? Let's try to find the square root of 300. Find the square root of 324 using the prime factorization method. And of course, the first thing that we will need to do, since 324 is an even number, so we can start dividing 324 by what? By the smallest prime number that we can think of, which is 2. Now, 324 divided by 2, that would equal to 12, 150, so that would equal to 162. All right. Now 162 is an even number. That's why we can divide it again by another 2. So 162 divided by 2, that would equal to 81, isn't it? Because 160 divided by 2 is 80, and 2 divided by 2 is 1, so 81. And we both know that 81 is a composite number. It is not a prime number, so it can still be divided by what number? By we can actually divide it by the perfect square, which is 9, right? And then 9 divided by 9 is equal to 9, correct? And 9 divided by 9 again, that is equal to 1. Now why didn't we use the 3 instead? Because if we just use this 3 instead, we just have to go back there again. And besides, 9 is a perfect square anyway, so we can just use that afterwards. So now we have a 2 times 2, that will equal to 2 squared, correct? Times 9 times 9, correct? Now square of them, because we're trying to find the square root of 324, and that would equal to this. And we both know that inside the square root, if they are being multiplied, we can separate them. So we have 2 squared times square root of 9 times square root of 9, which will give us, okay, let's move this one here. Okay, so we know that hang on, so we have a square root of 2 squared, that is equal to 4, right? Times square root of 9 times square root of 9. Now we know that square root of 4 is equal to 2, and square root of 9 is equal to times 3, and times square another 3. Okay, so that's equal to 2 times 3 is 6, times 3 is 18. So basically our square root of 324 is equal to 18. Now let's proceed to the next question here for finding the square root of 484. Now the first thing that we need to do is to divide this number into the smallest prime numbers that we can think of, because we are using the prime factorization method. All right, now of course the smallest prime numbers that we can think of are 2 and 3 and so on. However, 484 is an even number, so we can just use this to divide. We can just use 2 to divide it by. All right, so we can divide 484 by 2, which is equal to 242. Since 242 is an even number again, we can just divide it by another 2, so that becomes 121. Now 121 is not a prime number, basically, of course, so it is composite number, and it has a factor. What is a factor of 121? So we can actually divide it by 11, and 121 divided by 11, that is equal to 11. And of course 11 has no any other factor because it is a prime number. Let's just divide it to cancel it out, so that our last number at the end is 1, correct? Now we know that 2 times 2 times 11 times 11 is equal to 484. So the thing that we need to do is 2 that means 2 squared times 11 squared, isn't it? So we have 484. All right, and our problem is to find the square root of 484, so you need to find the square root of this one as well. So we have we need to separate this according to the radical sign rule. Whenever you multiply inside the radical sign, that means you can separate them as well. So we have a 2 square root of 2, square root of 2 to the power of 2 times square root of 11 to the power of 2, and we both know that 2 to the power of 2 is equal to 4, and 11 squared is equal to 121. And what is the square root of 4? That is equal to 2. So we need to cancel the square root now because we already found the square root of 4. Alright, we already simplified it. And what is the square root of 121? That is equal to 11. Alright, now 2 times 11 is 22. So basically, the square root of 484 is equal to 22. Now, if you have a calculator there with you, you can check it whether your answer is correct. Go to your calculator, put the square root of 484, and it will give you an answer of 22. Now let's try a bigger number here. We have 2704. Okay, this will be our final example. The first thing that we need to do to find the square root of 2704 or 2704 is to divide it with the smallest prime number that we can think of. And since 2704 is an even number, then the smallest prime number we can think of is 2. So divide this by 2, so that becomes 1. So we have 1352. All right, so yeah, yes, I think that is. And now divide both of them by 2 again, since the 1352 is another even number. So 2 divided by 2, that will give us, so hang on, that will give us 676, I think. And then since 676 is a prime number, is an even number, then we can divide it by 2 once again, which will give us 338. And since 338 is another even number, then we can divide it again by 2, which will give us 169. That is a beautiful number, 169. And 169 is not an even number anymore. However, 169 is a perfect square number, which is 13 times 13, correct? So divided by 13, so 169 divided by 13 is equal to 13. We have to divide it again by 13 so that we can get 1 here at the last number, so that we can know that is our final stop. Now 2704 will be equal to 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 13 times 13, and we can do that into like this. So we have 2 square times 2 square times 13 square. All right, and again, that is 2704, and we are asking to find the square root of 2704. So basically we can separate them now. So we have 2 square times 2 square times 13 square, and we both know that 2 to the power 4 is square root of 4. So we have 4 and 169, correct? Now square root of 4 is 2, we both know that. The square root of 4 is another 2 again, and square root of 169 is 13. Now all we have to do is to multiply 2 times 2 is equal to 4 times 13. That would equal to 13 times 4, 26, 52. So basically, the square root of 2704 is equal to 52. Alright, I hope you learned a lot today, and I will see you again next time. Goodbye.